speak is on the seat. Okay. Chalo. So it helps a lot. Huh? Please remind everybody
Yes,
anytime you
yes.
miss this because then later we somehow sometimes we like to use this. Now what happens is that there is this kind of a dilemma in Arjuna's mind because Krishna has one side told him cultivate spiritual knowledge and do so many spiritual activities. Other side Krishna says kill all these people. Arjuna says, then I will better chant Hare Krishna. Why I do all these things? But no, Krishna is clarifying to Arjuna that actually work done as ordered by him comes karma yoga. Yoga means it is linked to the Lord. Okay? And work done, just withdrawing from all material activity is one sense better because we have given up sense gratificatory activities. But there is because there is no positive engagement that will not last. In second chapter, Krishna gives the argument to Arjuna: if you give up the battlefield, go to the forest. There also you'll fight. That's your nature. Rather, you dovetail your nature of fighting for the service to the Lord, connected to some noble cause. And the highest noble cause is the will of the Lord. Okay, so in that way, Krishna is trying to convince him in the third chapter. And in the fifth chapter, Arjuna again asks this question. Yeah. So Krishna, in answer to that, has in this chapter given various points. We studied it last time that how when somebody is doing activities by his own modes, meditating on the fruit, then he is actually liable to be punished or rewarded. But when somebody does an activity just for the pleasure of the Lord, he comes out of the duality of reward and punishment. He's actually spiritually blessed. Not the activity has no material bearing now. So that is what Krishna has developed in this. Arjuna said, "Oh Krishna, first of all, he asked me to renounce work, that is karma sannyas. Then he again to recommend work with devotion, that is karma yoga. Now, please tell you definitely which is how the two is more beneficial. I'll just go to the verses. The blessed Lord said the renunciation of work and devotion are both good, one says. But all the two work into karma yoga is better than karma sannyasa. Okay? Can you see this? Karma yoga, karma sannyasa. Two words you can say. Can you see all this is karma sannyasa and karma yoga? Vishishyate. Karma yoga is better than karma sannyasa. Then after that comes one who neither hates nor desires the fruit to activity, but always a renounce. Such a person liberated from duality easily overcome material bondage and is completely. Oh my dear Arjuna. Okay? So he's not working for result. Most of the people are working for result, some fruit in their mind. Then they are punished for. But karma yogis, you're not working for your pleasure. You're working for God's pleasure. I give this example of an army man. He fights for the country. He even may give his life. The commander says jump. He jumps. It's not his botheration. It's going to win the war or lose the war. That calculation he does not have. That is not the calculation when army fights. Okay, I may win, we may lose, but I still will obey the order of my commander. That's how it is suppressed. Only the ignorant speak of karma yoga and devotion services different to the analytical study of matter. Those are actually, as it says, applies to one path, achieves a result of both. Generally, the karma sannyasa people, they study Sankhya, refers to Mayavadis, and karma yoga is generally Vaishnavas who engage in service to the Lord, they are called Vaishnavas. And karma sannyasis are generally Mayavadis who withdraw themselves from sense control. Angur khatte hain, mostly out of frustration they withdraw. So one sense, Prabhupada says, one is trying to water the root of the tree and one is trying to search the root of the tree. So in one sense, both are similar. In one angle, they're similar. One who know the position is renunciation is also the work in devotion. See the path of work, say, see the things as they are. Okay? So one is detachment from matter, one is attachment to Krishna. So both happen simultaneously. Okay. Unless one is engaged in devotion with the Lord, mere renunciation of activities cannot make one happy. So just by karma sannyasa, but not linked to devotion to the Lord, karma yoga, that will be useless. Okay, achieve the result without delay. So this is important. One who works in devotion, not Krishna, after clarifying actually, a devotee is in a better position than a just a person who withdraws There is some definitely, that's what spiritualism means today. All this bogus spiritual organization, all they do is that you go there, they say forget everything, sit down and meditate. And meditation not on God, is on some candlelight anything. The whole idea is
Mhm.
make your mind thoughtless. I met some people. I have gone to some college, so I went to Sanskrit teacher. I was talking to that lady. I said, so what's trying to do? You also do some sadhana? Yeah, I do some sadhana. So what? I try to make my mind thoughtless. That's funny. It's not possible. It's not practical. And it's very difficult. Klesha. But engaging the mind in devotional service is actually practical. Even in the day-to-day time, suppose you have one day free, you're sitting at home, engage your mind in some practical devotional service. That will work. You sit down in a corner, I'll think about Krishna Lila, I'll think about Ram Lila. It is good, but you can't do that. Even that you cannot. Very advanced Krishna consciousness is not also for us. For us is to grossly engaging the mind and body in the devotional service, and definitely just like we're having now, sometimes spending together reading. Correct? We cannot say for months or years, I will just sit down. That's called Babaji. They sit in Vrindavan and they make a show of, continuously chanting. It's all hypocrisy. And mostly they get involved in some kind of obnoxious activity. Many people have this. Swamiji, one day I'll leave everything and go to Himalayas. Same mind will go with you and you better be engaged. Karma yoga. Then an artificial karma sannyasa. You understand? Karma sannyasa generally leads to simple activity. So why? Idle mind is devil's. Okay? But for a pure devotee, idle mind is not a devil's workshop. For him, there is no idle mind. Mind is always at the lotus feet of Lord. Ours is not. Therefore, it tends to be mystery. One who works in devotion to the pure soul, controls the mind, is dear to everyone, and meditate all those workings, such a man is never entangled. This is a talk about devotee. Okay, this way there. And then we came to the point that even though he's seeing, hearing, touching, smelling, moving, doing so many activities, but actually he's not doing anything. Why? Because he's not doing. Doing means he's not doing for, because he's doing for Krishna, it's not doing. It is akarma in karma. Last time we discussed this. Murthy Mataji pointed out, this is karma in akarma. He's doing karma, but it has no reaction. That's good as the karma. There is no reaction for that. He's just doing for the Lord's pleasure. So he does not do. Otherwise, it's a contradiction, no? You say he's seeing, doing, but he's not doing. Okay? Because he's doing for Krishna, therefore there is no to worship. Therefore, Krishna conscious person always free, even though he appears to be engaged in the things of the senses. Okay. We start from 10th, linking verse. Tarun?
Yes, sir. Yes, Prabhuji.
Okay. One who performs his duty without attachment, surrendering the results under the Supreme Lord, is not affected by sinful actions. Is there any delegation today? Certain shloka somebody is doing? Is there anybody?
Prabhuji, I can take after 17.
Okay.
If you want me to read, probably
Yeah, sure.
in the beginning, yeah, sure.
Okay, one who performs his duty without attachment, certainly the results of Supreme Lord is not affected by sinful action, as a lotus leaf. Padra Patram Padma Patra Vivambasa is a very famous line. This shloka is very famous shloka. Yeah. Yeah, please somebody start off.
Yeah, Prabhuji, you want me to read the purport?
Yes, sir.
Here, Brahmani means in Krishna consciousness. The material world is a sum total manifestation of the three modes of material nature, technically called the Pradhana. The Vedic hymn, Sarvam He Itat Brahma, and in the Bhagavad Gita 14.3, indicate that everything in the material world is a manifestation of Brahman. And although the effects are differently manifested, they are non different from the cause. In the Isopanishad, it is said that everything is related to the Supreme Brahman or Krishna, and thus everything belongs to him only. One who knows perfectly well that everything belongs to Krishna, that he is the proprietor of everything, and that, therefore, everything is engaged in the service of the Lord, naturally has nothing to do with the results of his activities, whether virtuous or sinful. Even one's material body, being a gift of the Lord for carrying out a particular type of action, can be engaged in Krishna consciousness. It is then beyond contamination by sinful reactions, exactly as the lotus leaf, though remaining in the water, is not wet. The Lord also says in the Gita 3.30, resign all works unto me, Krishna. The conclusion is that a person without Krishna consciousness acts according to the concept of the material body and senses, but a person in Krishna consciousness acts according to the knowledge that the body is the property of Krishna and should therefore be engaged in the service of Krishna.
ठीक है शिव he drove car. Everything belongs to Krishna, and there is a quick of everything that is because anyway, one is in total consciousness. Pankaj, you're able to understand? Hare Krishna, Pankaj. ठीक है just give me 1 minute.
Yeah, Prabhu.
Okay, one knows perfectly everything belongs to Krishna as a perfect everything. Anyway, so when we are in total consciousness, whole world belongs to Krishna, and we are offering the world to Krishna. Just like you see a rose. If you think of enjoying the rose, then an act of enjoying the rose, you become caught because you're sinful. The rose belongs to Krishna. It's like I come to Tarun's house. He's not inviting me, but if I go, then what happens? And I pick up some things in his house. What do you say? Prabhuji, that's fine. But these things belongs to me. Correct? So when we look at something which do not belong to us as ours, is considered sinful. Is it fine? Do we agree? That's sinful. Yeah. Correct? It doesn't belong to us, so you have no right to take possession of anything. God has bestowed things to different people, and we have no right to snatch it from them. Ishavasha Vidam Sarvam. That's the principle of non-enviousness also. The devotee does not feel envy because he knows that everything is being bestowed that belongs to different people. Even if he sees somebody is moving in Mercedes, well, it's fine. Krishna has given him. He's not envious. He's peaceful. So, but what happens is that when I look at this world for enjoyment, immediately I'm sinful. It's not mine. But a devotee also looks simple. He is also plucking the flower, and the karmi is also plucking the flower, but there's a big difference. The devotee is plucking the flower to offer to Krishna. Karmi is putting, not karma yogi, karma bhogi. A normal Hindu is plucking the flower to enjoy, or say give it to his girlfriend. That is also another sanskarification. So then he is liable to be punished because this world doesn't belong to him. Who is he to enjoy this world? God's world. But if he's in total consciousness, the word belongs to God, and he's using everything in this world for God's pleasure, not for his pleasure, he's in Krishna consciousness. That's fine? Makes sense?
Yeah.
So then he becomes Padma Patra Vivamasa. Because how do you live in this world? The devotee lives in this world offering the whole world to Krishna. Then he's in a very good smooth consciousness. So this is a very famous line. Padma Patra. You can always remember this line. Padma Patram Vivamasa. ठीक है, Padmapatram iva ambasa, in the water. Padmapatra means a lotus leaf, iva like ambasa.
Ambasa means
Ambasa is the water, in the water.
water.
Padmapatra iva ambasa. So just like a lotus leaf in water will not touch. If he is not, when you are offering the whole world to Krishna, you will not be infected by the simple activity. Just like bhoga, when you even making, therefore we are not vegetarian, we are Krishna table. Whatever Krishna says bring, we bring. He says Padma Putram Falashvoyam, it happens to be vegetarian, we also do vegetarian. Because Krishna is not whimsical. Actually, whatever Krishna wants to eat, we give him. And we can have that as a prasad. But why Krishna restricts us to Padma Putram, Pasham Putram Phalam Toyam? Because he can eat the whole world. But he said, no, I'll eat water, leaf and all. Why? What's the reason? Because Krishna knows that is good for us. That way. Then Prabhupada concludes, when a person without Krishna conscious acts, according to the concept of bodies and senses, but a person acts according to the concept of bodies and Krishna conscious act according to the concept of the body is a property of the Krishna. Okay? Therefore, is engaged in the service. Anyway, in truth, there is no bondage. In illusion, there is bondage. Acting in illusion is not recommended. Acting in truth is recommended. Done. Any questions on this 10th verse? Pankaj, you are with us. You are able to understand. You are muted now. Usha Mataji, Tarun, Yuresh, is it fine?
Yes,
Yeah.
Prabhuji, all good.
Yeah.
And now, Hare Krishna, Pankaj.
Hare Krishna.
Any question? Is it clear?
जी.
Is the principle clear? Your voice is very muted. You can speak little louder.
Some disturbance in the background. Prabhu.
Really? You are having any disturbance, Tarun?
Slightly, not too much.
Okay, I know, I think.
That's better.
Is it better now?
Oh, much better.
Better.
Oh, that was my big fan. Because I am using the camera speakers now, so it will pick up. Now it's much
Right.
better, I think.
Yes.
Yeah, it is much better.
There was something like we had a cyclone now with a heavy lightning rain in Bangalore.
Oh,
So atmosphere is very pleasant. I can reduce the fan. Generally, what I do, I put the AC on when the class is there. So I enjoy AC because I know fan will make too much sound. Far. Chalo, okay. Is it fine, Pankaj? We proceed. Okay, chalo.
Okay, Prabhu.
It's fine, Pankaj.
Yes, Prabhu.
Okay, chalo. Feel free anytime. The yogis embodying attachment act with body, mind, intelligence, and even with the senses only for the purpose of purification. Yeah. Prabhuji, Tarunji, you read.
yeah. When one acts in Krishna consciousness for the satisfaction of the senses of Krishna, any action, whether of the body, mind, intelligence, or even the senses, is purified of material contamination. There are no material reactions resulting from the activities of a Krishna conscious person. Therefore, purified activities, which are generally called sad achar, can be easily performed by acting in Krishna consciousness. Shri Rup Goswami, in his Bhakti Ras Amrit Sindhu, describes this as follows. A person acting in Krishna consciousness, or in other words, in the service of Krishna, with his body, mind, intelligence, and words, is a liberated person even within the material world, although he may be engaged in many so called material activities. He has no false ego, for he does not believe that he is in this material body or that he possesses the body. He knows that he is not this body and that this body does not belong to him. He himself belongs to Krishna and the body too belongs to Krishna. When he applies everything produced of the body, mind, intelligence, words, life, wealth, etc., whatever he may have within his possession, to Krishna's service, he is at once dovetailed with Krishna. He is one with Krishna and is devoid of the false ego that leads one to believe that he is the body, etc. This is the perfect stage of Krishna consciousness.
Okay. Now everybody is clear. Again, re-emphasizing the point that the body, mind, intelligence, words, he is using in Krishna's service. And that's what we are doing as a sadhaka. We are using, and presently may not be in pure love of Krishna, but on the order of Guru and Krishna, we are engaged, gradually keeps purifying on the purpose, only for the purpose of purification. Okay? It makes sense, everybody? The line of thread of thought is same, correct? Somebody, Ashok wants to go on, Ashok. The perfect stage of Krishna consciousness. Okay, Yuresh, it's the same line of thought. But sometimes you may
Prabhuji.
feel why Krishna is repeating the same thread of thought again and again. Because just like, so in the second chapter, Krishna repeats again and again, again and again, again and again, he repeats what? Krishna repeats certain thing again and again. What is that? You're not body, we are soul. And there's an insense one repetition there. So sometimes we feel why Krishna has to speak 10 times. One time he could have told me you're not body or soul. But Krishna is the best teacher. He knows it doesn't strike us one time. So he is speaking something strongly from different angles so that the main essence is driven into our heart. Okay? Iha yasya haridasa karmana manasagira. Nikalashya avastasu jivan mukta sochate. When body, minds, and words we use in the service of Krishna, that is a jivan mukta. He's a liberated person even though living. So everything can be
Prabhuji,
used.
what is the difference between ego and false ego, Prabhuji?
Where the word comes. Yeah, no. Okay. See, ego generally, suppose you say you are an engineer, I think, Yuresh.
Yeah.
Yeah, you say you are as engineer in Australia, it's ego, real ego. That's fine. But you say you are the best engineer in the world, that is false ego. You understand?
Yeah, but okay.
You say you have studied 12th class, that's real ego. You say you're a Nobel laureate, that's false ego. That's not true. You're not Nobel.
But ego and false ego both are negative, isn't it? Or
No.
is there any
That's
positive?
what people are propagating. The Mayavadis propagate that we have to destroy ego. But actually we cannot destroy ego, we have to destroy false ego. Now, as purposes are coming later, Prabhupada talk about identity and individuality. There are two things. So identity is changing. You see that you are Indian, now you're an Australian, tomorrow you may be British. Your identity is changing, correct? You're an engineer, tomorrow you may be financial. You may change your profession itself. I was a student, and then I was a boy. We have so many our identities are changed, but we have remained the same individual. Individual means there is ego, but the ego is different from false ego. Individuality is also an ego. So, how do you define, Tarun?
Prabhuji, Abhiman, the Hindi word Abhiman is false ego.
Okay.
And Shuddha ego is I am soul. I am servant of Krishna.
So what do you call that?
That is ego.
So what is the Hindi word for ego?
हिंदी वर्ड ईगो मेरे को अभी ख्याल में नहीं आ रहा है, पर अभिमान पूरा का पूरा
तो आधा छोड़ दिया अभी, अभिमान लाए, अब उसको भी लाओ ना.
What about
Abhiman, Durabhiman?
Ahankar?
Ahankar is wrong.
Ahankar is wrong.
Ahankar is
arrogance.
Yeah.
Ahankar is arrogance, isn't it, Prabhuji?
Yeah, Ahankar is the pride.
Pride.
Hello, I'm supposed to know Hindi, but I've forgotten. I'm living in South India 25 years. Forgotten Hindi. Sometimes when I take class in Hindi, I really struggle for words. Not used to speaking at all. Okay, so ego anyway is wrong. Ego is fine. It's natural. Okay. We do have an ego, but false ego is wrong. Okay. When this ego cannot be destroyed, individuality cannot be destroyed, but it should use for service of Krishna. So you identify yourself when as a servant of Krishna. There's an eternal identity. Correct? Presently, your identities are changing, but you bring it to the eternal identity. I'm a servant of Krishna. Then your real ego will come out as a dasa of the Lord. What is my identity? I'm a servant of the Lord. So it is dovetail with Krishna. Okay, he is one with Krishna, devoid of false ego, and later believe that he is the body. Okay, perfect state of Krishna consciousness. Everything produced in the body, whatever he may have within the person. There is a Bhaktivinoda Thakur famous song. What is the song?
Bhakti Vinodams.
He says, mind, body, words, everything I offer to you. Manasa deha geha jo kuch mora arpita tua pade Nanda Kishora. Says Krishna, I give you everything, whatever. That's the attitude developed. Whatever he has, he sees it as belonging to Krishna. And that's also the way he never becomes wasting money. Never. Because he knows this is not my money, it is Krishna's money. So he uses for Krishna's glorification. Does not waste. See, another principle always, because I also spend money for, I always feel utility. Utility is the principle, not luxury. Today I had gone to change the tire of my car. It just crossed 40,000 kilometers, so they were almost gone. So when I went there, he said, "You're lucky. Anyone would have burst any time." They were totally flat. So anyway, he gave me the options as a utility, the principle. Give me something which is tested and works well, the tire, and utility. Don't talk to him about luxuries. So always when you put that as a principle, you make a correct decision in your life, even financial. Otherwise, just peer pressures to trying to show to people, that's lack of self-confidence. Oh, yesterday we had so many discussions on mind control. I'm developing a nice presentation. I don't know when to do that. You know that I have a lot of presentations which I make PowerPoint presentation. I showed you one that was for Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, correct? If you were there in Chaitanya Charitamrita class. Like that, I make a lot of presentations for youngsters. Okay? And they're detailed. I made 26 techniques of mind control.
Oh, wow.
Very interesting. Very, very interesting it is. I don't know how to share with you. I'm totally packed. One more thing I'm starting just for you. I don't know who will be. That is 10 to 1 on Sunday. That is for a marathon session. If somebody wants a marathon session, but it will be more detailed than what we study. Okay? So we thought we will start Bhagavata study, marathon. This is on the line of Bhakti Shastri course is called as Bhakti Shastri Bhakti Vaibhav. Extremely detailed. Okay? If somebody finds himself free, you can join. But anyway, we are having so many sessions. But some people in temple in Bangalore were not able to come because of various reasons. So I will do on temple with my whole congregation, but I will also have opportunity for people to interact with the internet. Hare Krishna, Shobha Mataji.
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
I was just talking to them about the Sunday 10 to 1. Okay.
Okay,
Finally, we will keep the computer on. People can join us. Okay, Mataji. So let us continue. You have come. Let us go to the next shloka. A steadily devoted soul attains unadulterated peace because you offer the resort of activities to me, whereas the person who is not in union with the divine, who is greedy for the fruits of labor, become entangled. Now, Yuresh, you like to read for some time?
Yes,
Prabhu. Arun will coming back at 70 first. Yeah.
Yeah, but the difference between a person in Krishna consciousness and a person in bodily consciousness is that the former is attached to Krishna, whereas the latter is attached to the results of his activities. The person who is attached to Krishna and works for him only is certainly a liberated person, and he is not anxious for fruitive rewards. In the Bhagavatam, the cause of anxiety over the result of an activity is explained as being due to one's functioning in the conception of duality, that is, without knowledge of the absolute truth. Krishna is the supreme absolute truth, the personality of Godhead. In Krishna consciousness, there is no duality. All that exists is a product of Krishna's energy, and Krishna is all good. Therefore, activities in Krishna consciousness are on the absolute plane. They are transcendental and have no material effect. One is, therefore, filled with peace in Krishna consciousness. One who is, however, entangled in profit calculation for sense gratification cannot have that peace. This is the secret of Krishna consciousness. Realization that there is no existence besides Krishna is the platform of peace, and fearlessness.
Okay, platform of peace and fearlessness. There is nothing and there is no existence beside Krishna, because everything belongs to him, because either Krishna or Krishna's energy. In fact, in the Chatushloki Bhagavatam, Krishna says, if you think there is something not connected to me, know it to be the effect of my Maya. If you're looking at something disconnected from Krishna, that means you're in Maya. Everything is connected to him. So not anxious. See what happens, that there's the duality coming. Because when you are anxious of fruitive reward, say fighting itself in the war. If Arjuna fights a war, how generally people fight the war? To win the war, enjoy the property of the fellow you are fighting, correct? Or punish somebody. That's how you do. And when you can win or lose, maybe you will be plundered and you will be killed, or maybe you will win and you will kill him and plunder. But there is a duality here. But when you are fighting for Krishna, you have nothing to win for. You're just doing for Krishna. Correct? You're doing for Krishna. Just like Lord Rama, the example, when he went to Lanka, the Lord himself. He went there, the Lord himself, to punish Ravana. But he didn't plunder and bring anything back. No, that is not his intention. Because the Hanuman also, when he fought for Lord Rama, he didn't go to get some beautiful woman as a reward or money, or just like generally Kshatriyas will take these all as a reward when they win the war. No, he just went for service to Krishna. Now he wins the war or loses, that is not his concern. Therefore, there is no duality in his mind. He just wants to fight for the Lord. Krishna says, jump, jump. That's all. Okay, maybe he's jumping and the defeat is certain, does not matter. Krishna wants me to jump, I'll jump. I will give my life for Krishna. You got this point? If you are meditating on the fruit, what happens when you're getting the fruit, you get excited. You're not getting the fruit, you get depressed. And just like please try to understand this point. Prabhupada was in India, he was trying to spread the Guru's mission. The very attempt to try to spread the Guru's mission was glorious. Even though there was no result for 30 years. Even that life was glorious. We can see that he writes beautiful Bhagavatam at that time. Hare Krishna Badrinath, welcome. Yeah. So at that time, Prabhupada is writing beautiful Bhagavatam purport. We don't see any disturbance in his system at that point. Very peaceful. You cannot write those. If he is meditating on the fruit, my Guru's mission is not happening, my Guru's mission is not happening, then he'll be very disturbed. He's not in that mood. His very attempt to make it successful. You getting my point?
Yeah.
You're fighting to your best ability and you're detached from the result. Maybe you lose, maybe you win. That is not my concern. I'm just doing it. So there is some kind of detachment needed in life also. There are certain areas of influence, certain areas of concern. This is what I develop as one of the points of mind control. Your focus remains on the area of your influence. But don't waste your time on the area of concern. What is your influence? You know how to hold the arrow and throw. That's what Arjuna knows. He knows some skill of fighting. But what is the result is beyond his control. Life also, what you can do, you do. Get up early morning, chant your rounds, you read Bhagavatam, go to your job, you come back in the evening, do some puja, read, discuss Krishna consciousness, or sometimes like in video, take rest. So that's all you can. But the result we don't know. The result is sometimes in a moral plane, people start worshipping you. The result is sometimes people laugh at you, you're an idiot. Why? That's not in my control. Your wife respects you, or your wife says, my husband has gone mad. What can I do? I'm detached. I'm just doing the area of my influence. But area of my concern, I should not too much dabble with, because that's outside my control. My focus should remain on what I can do. So Arjuna, what he can do, Krishna is asking to fight, throw arrows. But whether he wins the war, that is not, he's not into anxiety over that thing. But a person who works fruitively, he works with this something to gain or lose. When he's winning, he is in great excitement. When he's losing, he becomes depressed. Okay. So in Krishna consciousness, there is no duality. Because it's just done for Krishna's pleasure. The result is not the meditation. The very act, just like in ISKCON, one of the most beautiful service is book distribution. I think you're all aware. Consider the most virtuous service. And there was one sannyasi, very famous sannyasi. So he was wonderfully preaching. So he used to say that If anybody has just even gone out for book distribution, not that he has sold a single book, the very act of going out in his hand with Bhagavad Gita to meet people and give, that's itself is glorious. He has already won. Yeah, you got it? There is never a loss in Krishna consciousness. You go to preach to somebody, you say, please accept. I was seeing recently Prabhupada says Krishna conscious movement has two purposes. One purpose to establish that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of God. And number two, kill all the demons who don't accept that. Like Digvijay, you know the Digvijay, like what used to happen previously. Yudhishthira Maharaj is the Raja at Hastinapur, and Arjuna Pandavas go all around him, like Digvijay. Anybody there who doesn't accept he's the king? They used to call Ashwamedh Yajna, no? Everybody know? Rajaswaya Yajna, Ashwamedh Yajna, correct?
Yeah.
They will take that horse and anybody. So similarly, Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So we also go, but we don't lift weapon by argument, by preaching, by kirtans. We try to convince people to accept that Krishna is Supreme Personality of Godhead. So we have the same two purposes. Establish Krishna as Supreme Personality of Godhead. Kill means by arguments. We don't lift weapon. We don't do. By argument, kill everybody who says that's not true. So we have that mission. So the moment you go out or do something in that direction, you're already glorious. Result is not an issue. Yes, Murthy Mataji, is it fine? Is it going in the right direction?
Yes, Prabhu.
Any questions on this?
For this fifth chapter, especially, it's very good. There are beautiful slokas in this fifth chapter.
Yeah.
Later on, when we see.
Okay. When the living being controls his nature and mentally renounces all actions that resides happened in the city of nine gates, neither working nor causing work to be done. Okay, this is nine
Purport.
gates. Yeah. Yes, yes.
The embodied soul lives in the city of nine gates. The activities of the body or the figurative city of body are conducted automatically by the particular modes of nature. The soul, although subjecting himself to the conditions of the body, can be beyond those conditions if he so desires. Owing only to forgetfulness of his superior nature, he identifies with the material body and therefore suffers. By Krishna consciousness, he
We are
can
in the
revive his real position and thus come out of his embodiment. Therefore, when one takes to Krishna consciousness, one at once becomes completely aloof from bodily activities. In such a controlled life, in which his deliberations are changed, he lives happily within the city of nine gates. The nine gates are described as follows: Navadvare pure dehi hamso lelayate bahihi vasi sarvasya lokasya sthavarasya charasya cha. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is living within the body of a living entity, is the controller of all living entities all over the universe. The body consists of nine gates: two eyes, two nostrils, two ears, one mouth, the anus, and the genital. The living entity in his
Now continue.
conditioned stage identifies himself with the body, but when he identifies himself with the Lord within himself, he becomes just as free as the Lord, even while in the body.
Prabhu,
Shvetopanishad
we are doing
3.18.
13th chapter.
Therefore,
Huh?
In 13th,
What is that?
showing, so 13th, we are come to 13th, isn't it?
No, we are in fifth chapter, ma.
13th text.
Text.
Therefore, a Krishna conscious person is free from both the outer and inner activities of the material body.
Okay. Is free from the outer. You see, it's very nice word. As free as the Lord identifies with himself. But when he identifies himself with the Lord, it becomes as free as the Lord. You know? Interesting. It's kind of a line. Identifies
We are in
himself with the
text,
Lord. Huh?
13th text, Prabhu. 13th text. 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 13
Yeah, we are at the end of 13th lecture. Okay, so resides happily. This body is a body of 9 gates. You all agree? Correct?
Yes, that's true.
Okay, so 9 gates are count: 2 eyes, 2 ears, 2 nostrils, 6. Then
Yes.
and then mouth 7. This is a bag in which 9 holes have been put.
Yeah.
Bag of 9 holes, huh? A nasty
But
bag.
Prabhuji,
Ah.
could you please explain how, I mean, at the time of last breath, how, I mean, what's our preparation so that we can get out of the proper gate, so
Alright,
that
we
we can
had
go to.
recently. Anyway, that is, don't worry. Our focus should be that we prepare, particularly Prabhupada says, the last 20 years of the life, its preparation should become serious, very serious. Just like you have an examination, the last 2 months now, these are the months you could hardly meet the students now. They're professional colleges now, their exams will come up, and in June, July, in May, their exams, July new semester in India. After these are the examination days in India. For students, February, March, April, May, these 4 months are, different people will be in different examinations. So very difficult to meet them. They are in tension. So we should also be in tension before the final exam comes. So particularly as the age advances, we are not sure how much you're going to live. We should become very serious. Very, very serious. Recently, we had one devotee who left the body in Mangalore, one congregation. His name was Govindaram. Has been an old, he's been initiated maybe since 30 years. And he made his whole family devotees. His children, his grandchildren, and great grandchildren. Old, 84-year-old man. And many people, maybe 40, 50 people were around him chanting 16 hours. And very strict. Strict means he was very strict. Because anyway, he's a father, grandfather, and great grandfather. So, but so much I loved him. I went to see his, the last when he left the body, he just called me and I rushed to the house. I said, what was the situation? He said he chanted the full round, okay, and held the bead tightly in his hand. And we kept Gita, and we know he's leaving the body now. He just chanted the round just before him. Held the Bhagavad Gita in his other hand. On the head, they put, the Guru Parampara, put, Prabhupada picture in the front, giving him Charnamrit from the temple. How auspicious. This is how you should leave the body. Okay. And sometimes, it is very difficult. We are traveling in the train and you get a heart attack. And nobody there, not one devotee there. Isn't it? If devotees are there, it is very auspicious. Even Prabhupada went to Vrindavan, he's an acharya, but gives an example. He used to tell all his disciples, sit and do kirtan. And disciples doing kirtan whole day. And Prabhupada used to do it. This is tonic, he used to tell. He was hardly eating anything. This is tonic. More kirtan, more. So that is, I think, the best way to leave the body. Prepare, advance in Krishna consciousness, because many people feel at the time of death, suddenly I'll advance. No. Advancement should keep happening. Advancement means whatever you are doing should be pleasing to Krishna. Now, suppose you give somebody a dry chapati burn, it is not very pleasing. So presently, our japa also is called Nam Aparadha. It is happening, but in so many places. So when our service attitude improves, correct? Just like you go to serve somebody some food, how you please it? The service attitude is there. Would you take a little more, little nice, isn't it? When a guest comes to your house, you want to make him happy. You're very, very conscious. Very, very conscious. We don't know the effort to make people happy, and we give tons of effort, and people never get pleased sometimes, and they forget within 2 days. Okay? You give some dinner to some fellow, expecting he'll help you get some order for your company or something, and he forgets in 2 days' time. But Krishna, you know what Sudama gave, little, and Krishna becomes so happy. Krishna takes smallest of thing you give him as very big. So he's actually the first person we should serve, because he actually takes it and he loves him so much. So he's the first person to offer service. When Prabhupada went to America, I repeated it many times, they asked him this question to Prabhupada. The question was, what your religion teaches about how one person relates to another person? And Prabhupada says nothing. So they were shocked, the journalists. Why do you say like that? Prabhupada said, our religion talks about how you relate to Krishna first. And through Krishna, you relate to the whole world. We say we relate to humanity, but then what do? You kill so many cows. Actually, we do not. We are not white-hearted, not happy. What is the question, Sama Yuresh? Did I forget your question? Well,
No, I think in one of the classes you were discussing about if you, I mean, the time you take the last breath, if you take through the upper gates, you will be end up in Vaikuntha or something, and then if you go through some other gates, you will end up in hellish planets, and there is some criteria for
generally,
it
it
as
is
well.
not. See what happens. Have you seen that when cats and get scared when a dogs come? You have seen they stand in that place and pass through them. Okay. Even
Yeah.
small children, if you frighten them, they're standing there, they shiver and they pass urine. Correct.
Yeah.
So generally, going through the lower two is not considered auspicious. Okay. Others I don't know because we are yogis. They do that drama. They hold their consciousness and then they call it the Kundalini yoga. This is part of Sankhya system, Ashtanga yoga, and they may want to make it rise, and then they hold it between the eyebrows, spinal, and they don't
Yeah.
allow it to come out, and it bursts through the head, skull, and they say that person means has gone to. If you've seen the picture of that yogi in a forest, have you seen?
Yeah.
Have you seen that famous ISKCON picture?
Yes.
Ah,
Yes, I have seen.
ah. You can see, I try to locate the picture if you want now. So let us continue. You can see on that picture, the head is burst on the top. He has left the body with the breaking, the cracking the top of the skull. But don't do that. Prabhupada has told us not to focus on that because devotees don't try. See what happens. The 8th chapter, this will come. That a normal person he endeavors how to go back to Krishna's lotus feet in the sense of his own capacity. Devotee depends on Krishna. Prabhupada gave an example once. One lady was holding a child in her hand. He said two ways it can be. You can keep your child on your back and he is holding to you by his own strength. Correct? Some animal species it is like that. The child is on the back and they're like monkeys. He has to hold on by his own strength. Mother keeps jumping left, right, center. And some animals like kangaroos and other in Australia, the mother is keeping the child. Correct?
Yeah. Very
Humans,
safe.
huh?
Very safe.
Very safe.
The baby is very safe for kangaroos.
So our approach is that we take shelter of Krishna, and he takes us to the lotus feet. He holds our hand. We just catch hold of Krishna's hand, and he takes us back to Krishna. So we don't depend on all these techniques of, which hole and all. Krishna takes us back.
Just for knowledge, Prabhuji. I'm not concerned about that.
You see some people cracking their skull. I have not seen anybody cracking his skull. Yes, Tarun, you have seen people cracking their skull.
No, Prabhuji. I think the highest I have heard physically is people saying that they left through the eyes or through ears. So that is the highest I have heard.
Oh.
Generally, people open their mouth and generally, breath, because the breath has to go out. The prana has to leave anyway. See what happens? The soul, we don't know. The soul has within the subtle energy. The subtle energy of the prana that has to move out through the mouth.
Right.
And soul is anyway spiritual. Yeah. In fact, the joke is this: that when you take to the crematorium, okay, this the pujari there, the karma kandi, they take a stick and break the skull sometime. They get the soul to leave from there. Have you seen that?
Right.
They do that?
Yes.
They hit on the skull so the soul to come from there.
Yes.
But soul has already left. But also they say the soul hovers around for some time because it's too attached to the body. It just can't leave it immediately. Huh?
They say some 6 to 8 hours it is there. But some school of thought also say that beyond 24 hours, if the temperature is not controlled, the degeneration starts.
Of what?
Of the body.
So the body though it degenerate. That's not an issue.
Yes.
We're talking about the soul.
Yeah, that is what you said is right. That the mouth is the most common. And among the yes.
Just one last breath. Anyway, prana has to come out from the mouth.
Correct.
Suppose the soul is also liberated and he's going back to Godhead. He can go from wherever he wants to go, from eyes and all. But if he's totally liberated, you can't see it. It's gone. But
Correct.
the prana has that energy has to come out through the mouth, the subtle energy.
Mouth.
You know? One, always through the breath, it will come out. Correct? One,
Yeah.
it's like a long, like that. That's what I've always.
Right.
You have seen everybody like that, no?
Yes.
Yuresh, so that's all we know about it. Okay,
That's
and
good,
as for the
Abhijit. That's
devotee, cracking the skull has not been given as a target. We are more focused on thinking about Krishna at that moment. So Krishna holds our hand and let him take through any hole he wants. He wants to take it. Anyway, devotee even doesn't mind going to hell if there is some work there. Yeah, if there is some preaching to be done there, maybe just like Narad Muni, if Krishna says go to hell, he goes there also. There also he finds some people to chant Hare Krishna. Okay, so I think we go to the next. He resides happily, and the most important point which we read in the beginning was when he identifies himself as the Lord, he becomes as free as the Lord. See, there was a point of Prabhupada says this very nice. He says that the peacefulness of a devotee is a self-manifest condition. It's not artificially created. So we saw Prabhupada saying he's as free. So we showed so much peace when he identifies with the Lord. And you see here, this is the secret of Krishna consciousness. Realization there is no existence without Krishna is the platform peace and fearlessness. Correct? We all want to be fearless. We all want to be peaceful. That is, we have to connect ourselves to Krishna. Chalo, 14th verse. The embodied spirit, master of the city of the body, does not create activity, nor does it induce people to act, nor does it create fruits of action. All this is enacted by the modes of material nature. Yes.
Perfect. The living entity, as will be explained in the 7th chapter, is one in nature with the Supreme Lord, distinguished from matter, which is another nature, called inferior of the Lord. Somehow, the superior nature, the living entity, has been in contact with material nature since time immemorial. The temporary body or material dwelling place which he obtains is the cause of varieties of activities and their resultant reactions. Living in such a conditional atmosphere, one suffers the results of the activities of the body by identifying himself in ignorance with the body. It is ignorance acquired from the immemorial that is the cause of bodily suffering and distress. As soon as the living entity becomes aloof from the activities of the body, he becomes free from the reactions as well. As long as he is in the city of body, he appears to be the master of it. But actually, he is neither its proprietor nor controller of its actions and reactions. He is simply in the midst of the material ocean, struggling for existence. The waves of the ocean are tossing him, and he has no control over them. His best solution is to get out of the water by transcendental Krishna consciousness. That alone will save him from all turmoil.
Isn't this true for all the prime ministers and presidents of the countries? He thinks he is in control,
Yeah.
he thinks he's the master, but actually he's just in the midst of it. That's all. Struggling for existence. Waves of ocean are tossing and he has no control over them. And he just takes the credit. I'm control. Nothing. He's just there. That's all. Who is respecting? See, you can say you're president of the country, the whole country respects you, worships you, correct? Accepts you as a leader. Today it's so false actually. He appears to be master. Similarly, in the body, we appear to be master, but we are not the master. Neither the proprietor of the body, neither control of the action. We're just there. That's all. And body is moving, controlled by material modes. Material modes are dragging us, and we are in the modes of material ocean, drag here and there. So that's the point here. Material modes are acting, not us. Okay? We hardly are able to exhibit our free will to serve Krishna. So in that condition, just like I give a good example of this, you get a cold infection. So when you put on the fan, you sneeze. Now the sneezing is an unhealthy behavior because of the infection you've got. The original healthy behavior is lost now. Correct? You can't control it. You keep sneezing. And you are uncomfortable. Similarly, our actual behavior is to serve Krishna. And you feel ecstatic and blissful in that. But because of the artificial behavior, the Maya which has come in as an infection, uh, therefore we have to take medicine. We are not able to show our original behavior. It's covered now. Okay.
In mine is this thing iPad, that the page is not changing to the
A text 15. Not of the supreme, I assume anyone sinful or pious activity. The embodied
mine
being, however, are
is
bewildered because of the ignorance which covers the real knowledge. Okay. So how
Purport.
many of us now? Viresh is there. Four of us are there. Okay, Badrinath, is it fine? You're able to hear? Hare Krishna.
We can hear, sir.
Yeah, it's clear. Okay.
I think
Badrinath.
I think Pushpa Mataji is saying something.
Pushpa Mataji. Oh, her lab, the iPad is stuck.
Oh.
yes.
Now it's okay. You're at 15.
No problem.
You otherwise open the Bhagavad Gita, no, at your place.
I,
You can see. Now, Supreme, assume anyone sinful or pious, embodied beings, however, are bewildered
I'll
because
speak.
of ignorance which covers the real knowledge. Badrinath, advertisement for one more. Sunday 10 to 1.
Yes.
Hare Krishna Badrinath. Sunday 10 to 1. Are you free on Sunday 10 to 1? 10 to 1 in the morning. We will have marathon sessions every Sunday. Bhagavata study. Okay? Very deep study. So if you like, you can also join. Okay? So keep in mind. Okay? This is Gita study, that is Bhagavata. Okay, done. Yes, the word, who's going to read? Yuresh?
Purport. The Sanskrit word Vibhuhu means the Supreme Lord who is full of unlimited knowledge, riches, strength, fame, beauty, and renunciation. He is always satisfied in himself, undisturbed by sinful or pious activities. He does not create a particular situation for any living entity, but the living entity, bewildered by ignorance, desires to be put into certain conditions of life, and thereby his chain of action and reaction begins. A living entity is by superior nature full of knowledge. Nevertheless, he is prone to be influenced by ignorance due to his limited power. The Lord is omnipotent, but the living entity is not. The Lord is Vibhu or omniscient, but the living entity is Anu or atomic. Because he is a living soul, he has the capacity to desire by his free will. Such desire is fulfilled only by the omnipotent Lord. And so, when the living entity is bewildered in his desires, the Lord allows him to fulfill those desires. But one Lord is never responsible for the actions and reactions of the particular situation which may be desired. Being in a bewildered condition, therefore, the embodied soul identifies himself with the circumstantial material body and becomes subjected to the temporary misery and happiness of life. The Lord is the constant companion of the living entity as Paramatma or the Supersoul, and therefore he can understand the desire of the individual soul as one can smell the flavor of a flower by being near it. Desire is a subtle form of conditioning of the living entity. The Lord fulfills his desire as he deserves. Man proposes and God disposes. The individual is not therefore omnipotent in fulfilling his desires. The Lord, however, can fulfill all desires, and the Lord, being neutral to everyone, does not interfere with the desires of the minute independent living entities. However, when one desires Krishna, the Lord takes special care and encourages one to desire in such a way that one can attain to him and be eternally happy. The Vedic hymn therefore declares
Chalo, the Lord engages.
the Lord engages the living entity in pious activities so he may be elevated. The Lord engages him in pious activities so he may go to hell. Uh, the living entity is completely dependent in his distress and happiness. By the will of the Supreme, he can go to heaven or hell as a cloud is driven by the air. Therefore, the embodied soul, by his immemorial desire to avoid Krishna consciousness, causes his own bewilderment. Consequently, although he is constitutionally eternal, blissful, and cognizant, due to the littleness of his existence, he forgets his constitutional position of service to the Lord and is thus entrapped by nescience. And under the spell of ignorance, the living entity claims that the Lord is responsible for his conditional existence. The Vedanta Sutras also confirms this. The Lord neither hates nor likes anyone, though he appears to.
Appa, this is very interesting. It appears to is hate somebody, correct? One place Prabhupada says that he appears that he is neglecting us, but no, he's very, very alert. It looks like in our life sometimes. God has forgotten me. Even Krishna consciousness is not giving me any advancement. No, he is not neglecting. He is very, very alert to everything. Okay? The Lord is responsible, but he is actually. So let us see the different points of this purport. He does not assume. So we are doing so many activities, but Lord is not affected. Neither is responsible. It is we who are responsible. Okay? He is always satisfied in himself, and he's not disturbed by our sinful or pious activities. You know, he doesn't. Oh my God, what happened again? Yuresh is doing it. Oh my God, why Tarun did it again today? He is not thinking of it. He is very having wonderful pastime in Mother Yashoda. Okay, you can understand. He is in bliss, and he is actually what you are desiring is giving. Now, how can you blame? You are desiring those things. We make an external pretense. I want to become Krishna's devotee, but internally still we are desiring material enjoyment. So Krishna is fair with us. He does not create a particular situation, but we force him to be put under that particular condition of life. We force him. Somebody asked Prabhupada, why did God send us to this world? Prabhupada, he didn't send you. So what? No, he didn't send you. You forced him to send you. In that way. You forced Krishna. Okay, make this arrangement. He didn't. So just because everything is sanctioned by the Lord, it does not mean everything is happily sanctioned. Say, you have a son, Tarun?
Yeah.
No, he says, Papa, I'm just giving an example. Give me some money. I like to buy a bottle of liquor. You may sanction it, but very sad heart. My God, what the idiot has asked me. And he says, Papa, let us go to Tirupati or let us go to some temple. Correct? You will sanction that thing very happily. Great, I'll come with you, isn't it?
Yes.
So just because everything is sanctioned by the Lord doesn't implicate him. Okay? So he doesn't assume anybody's sinful pious activity just because he has sanctioned it. No. You forced him to sanction something unhappily. He didn't want to sanction it, but you forced it in the sense that he honors your freedom. Because there is no love without freedom. So you wanted stupid activity. You have some funny desires. Okay. So rehabilitation of desires, that's a better word. Does not create a particular, but the living entity bewildered by ignorance desires to be put in that particular condition of life. It's our choice. We did it. Because we are minute, we are prone to be influenced by ignorance. Okay, capacitor desire by the free will. We have the capacitor desire by the free will. The Lord is constant compared to the living entity, and therefore he can understand the desires in the individual as well. He can smell the flavor of the flower by being near it. Just like without touching the flower, you can smell. So Krishna sitting in the heart, he can smell your desires. Doesn't understand. The Lord fulfills the desires as he deserves. This is very important, the word deserves. You may be right to be the president of America, but where is the qualification? You can't handle it even materially, correct? So you have to develop the punya to get it. Just like you want to be boss of somebody, he wants to be boss of somebody. So punya is the one which takes care. So the deserving comes by the element of how much you can handle. I was just analyzing this Shudra, Brahmana, Kshatriya and the Vedic system. A Shudra was basically all he can handle is he can do the job, get some money and come and sleep. Vaishya is bigger than that. He can take risks. And he can live peacefully with that. See, there is amount of anxiety everybody can take. This world means anxiety is part of life. Because anytime death occurs. But still we live with anxiety. Just like in a plane you sit. The air hostess says, if there is any problem, jump from here, jump from here. You don't have to stop the plane and get out. Correct? You say that. you are living with certain amount of risk in life, which you can digest. Everybody, correct? Some people get very frightened in the flight, like me. I chant continuously when I am sitting on the flight. Okay. So anyway, the point is that the certain amount of risk you can digest. So Shudra can digest only little risk of his day-to-day life. That's it. He cannot think more. Vaishya is taking a higher risk. He's buying certain goods, price may go down, selling some other place. He's putting agriculture, organizing agriculture, crop may fail. So he's actually taking, but he can live with that anxiety. He can still be happy. दो दिन के जिंदगी खुश रहो, but his capacity is more. A Kshatriya has higher anxieties, isn't it? His anxiety is still higher than that, but still he can live peacefully. The principle is you should live peaceful and happy. The capacity is more, he deserves more. And a Brahmana, there are so many things are coming to him for direction. Should I do this? Should I do that? And he can have a lot of anxiety. It's very peaceful. I was just analyzing in the sense that the deserve thing I was just trying to meditate. Anybody has any realization on this? Krishna does not see. Krishna makes somebody billionaire. If you give somebody 100 rupees, so he's not whimsical. It is whom he decides, fine. But Krishna is not whimsical. Correct? He gives what people can handle. So how do you understand the word deserve? Yes, Murthy Mataji, Tarun, Yuresh.
Probably it depends on what pious activities you have done before and what sort of family and
Punya,
circumstances
you are saying Punya. Krishna makes you work for it. Krishna makes you work. Correct? He makes it work. In the spiritual world, you don't have to work. Suppose you want to offer Krishna 1 billion garlands. In the spiritual world, you come in front of him. Or even if you work, it's a fun. The work is done out of love. It's not a work. It's fun. There is the famous saying by Western philosophy: do the job you love, then you stop working. You understand, no? Work means it's frustrating. But when you are out of love, just like a mother takes care of the child out of love, it doesn't find tired at all. The Prabhupada says that's a proof of Krishna consciousness. Is that you are working, but you are enjoying it. You don't feel tired at all. But 15 minutes you did one arti, you feel exhausted. Actually, there is no love. Okay, so what? Anybody can understand this point? Okay, there is no what. Deserves. I think it's based on punya. Correct? Because Krishna doesn't want to, because he doesn't get involved. Look at the karma kanda thing. Krishna is out of the picture. He just signs the file, just like a normal person signs, based on punya. Now, one person wants to be somebody's boss, and just like in a house, wife wants to control the husband, husband wants to control the wife. So laws of karma come into picture, not Krishna. Krishna does not want to bother about this nonsense. It goes punya, was more punya. Wife has more punya. So she will control the husband in that house. And somewhere the husband has more punya, he's control. He cannot do anything. And that other person is having gratification. See, I control it. See, I am running the place. Isn't it the dirty game of controlling each other? Krishna doesn't want to put his leg. The laws of karma take care. Krishna is involved in signing the file, but he is very distant, putting his signature. Because without his signature, nothing happens. However, Prabhupada says when one desires Krishna, then what happens? This is very nice here. It's developing. The individual is not therefore omnipotent in fulfilling desire because everything is sanctioned by the law. The Lord, man proposes, God disposes. Because the Lord cannot fulfill desires, the Lord can fulfill desires, and the Lord being neutral does not interfere with desires in mind. He does not interfere. He is very, very. Pusha Mataji, echo is coming. I just muted. So he. Okay. So but therefore not omnipotent. The Lord, however, can fulfill all desires, and the Lord, being neutral to everyone, does not interfere with the desires of the minor living. However, very big question. However, when one desires to Krishna, the Lord takes special care and encourages one to desire in such a way, attains to Him and eternally Very nice. When he desires Krishna, how then Krishna becomes partial spiritually. He start personally interfacing in your life. Now, by omnipotent desire, Prabhupada says a very nice, therefore the embodied soul by his immemorial desire to avoid Krishna consciousness causes his own bewilderment. Okay? Immemorial desire. So we are responsible to avoid Krishna consciousness cause of bewilderment. Because you don't want Krishna consciousness, then only illusion is the next situation. Because Krishna consciousness is truth. So you want to be an illusion? Yes, okay. Then we cause our own bewilderment. Just like you want to speak that you are the king of the world. That is lack of Krishna consciousness. When you say Krishna is the supreme Lord, that is Krishna consciousness. So now I want to be the supreme Lord. Now this has to be facilitated by only one illusion. You all know the famous example, no? Somebody went to mother and said, small child, mother give me moon. So how can mother give moon? She shows a mirror. The child thinks he got the moon in illusion. In truth, he cannot be given the moon. It's not possible for mother to do. So illusion, we force illusion to be there because we have illegitimate demands. So due to the littleness of existence, it forgets the constitutional condition in the service of the Lord. And he forgets. And under the spell of the ignorance, the living entity claims the Lord is responsible for it. We blame the Lord. Okay? The Lord neither hates nor likes, though he appears to. Very nice way it ends this purpose. They're all detailed purpose, and I think these all shlokas are very important for practical Krishna consciousness because we are living around society, everything, and it goes deeply in our heart. Okay, we go to the next verse.
Yeah.
Any questions? Any point? When, however, one is entitled to a knowledge by being easily destroyed, then in knowledge reveals everything as the sun lights up everything in daytime.
Purport. Those who have forgotten Krishna must certainly be bewildered, but those who are in Krishna consciousness are not bewildered at all. It is stated in the Bhagavad Gita, Sarvam Jnana Plavena Jnanagnihi Sarva Karmani and Nahi Jnanena Sadrusham. Knowledge is always
Just one second. Yeah.
highly esteemed. And what is that knowledge? Perfect knowledge is achieved when one surrenders unto Krishna. As is said in the 7th chapter, 19th verse, Bahunam Janmanam Ante Jnanavan Mam Prapadyate. After passing through many births, when one perfect in knowledge surrenders unto Krishna, or when one attains Krishna consciousness, then everything is revealed to him as the sun reveals everything in the daytime. The living entity is bewildered in so many ways. For instance, when he thinks himself God, un- unceremoniously, he actually falls into the last snare of nescience. If a living entity is God, then how can he become bewildered by nescience? Does God become bewildered by nescience? If so, then nescience or Satan is greater than God. Real knowledge can be obtained from a person who is in perfect Krishna consciousness. Therefore, one has to seek out such a bona fide spiritual master and under him learn what Krishna consciousness is. The spiritual master can drive away all nescience as the sun drives away darkness. Even though a person may be in full knowledge that he is not this body but is transcendental to the body, he still may not be able to discriminate between the soul and the super soul. However, he can know everything well if he cares to take shelter of the perfect bona fide Krishna consciousness, spiritual master. One can know God and one's relationship with God only when one actually meets a representative of God. A representative of God never claims that he is God, although he is paid all the respect ordinarily paid to God because he has knowledge of God. One has to learn the distinction between God and the living entity. Lord Sri Krishna therefore stated in the second chapter 2.12 that every living being is individual and that the Lord also is individual. They were all individuals in the past, they are individuals at present, and they will continue to be individuals in the future, even after liberation. At night, we see everything as one in the darkness, but in day, when the sun is up, we see everything in its real identity. Identity with individuality in spiritual life is real knowledge.
Yeah, very nice. This is the identity with individuality. I've been talking to you about this. Identity
Yeah.
means it keeps changing. Now you raised was a child, now is a young man, now you'll become old man. So your identity is changing, correct? You say I'm an Australian, so tomorrow you may say I'm British or you may I'm an American. Identity is changing, but your individuality remains constant. You are an individual. That's why I discuss the ego. We do have real ego. I'm a servant of Krishna. That's the eternal identity and eternal individuality. But you are an individual, means you're always your individuality will eternal, can never go away. You remain an individual. People think I want merge my individuality into the God. No. Prabhupada said we are individual, isn't it? When you dress yourself, you're very conscious. In fact, I sometimes find funny. I go to the colleges, there are thousands of students in the class, correct? And I look at them, I talk to them, come. But when I come and they give me friend request on Facebook or something, I accept. Now, each one, even though making very normal or very average look, still wants to stand out. He wants to have an individuality, correct? We are very individual when we dress ourselves or we do anything. Yeah. But true, our devotee doesn't want to be recognized. He doesn't want, but he is an individual which decides to serve Krishna. Yes, Tarun, you wanted to say something on this point, identity and individuality, any realizations?
Yep. The main crux is that when one considers oneself with the material, and then the whole thing gets distracted. And individuality, yes, but we should remain very cautious that we are individual, we understand, but then we should not try to imitate Lord or his power or all that. That is, from ego, we should not go towards false ego. And that is the thin line.
Great. Yeah. Murthy Mataji, any realizations on this?
Is my voice going properly, Prabhu?
Clear. Your voice is clear.
Okay, see, as a Bahunam Janmam Ante Jnanam Mam Prapadyante. See, I just wanted to emphasize on this. After many years, finally the living entity recognized himself as the servant of God.
Yeah.
And one more thing, Prabhu, see, the word Saturn, I've seen it is often mentioned in the Bible. Long back, someone had given me Bible. Christian missionary people.
They wanted to catch you?
Maybe, I don't know. I just got the book, then I said, bye, that's all. So I just read it. See, this Saturn, it's written on most of the time, it's from the Bible, the word Saturn. Saturn means some like new science. New science, see, Saturn is something which disturbs your mind, something like that, I think so. What they mention is.
Yeah, no, very, and the Saturn sometimes defeats God also. So I think they're more concessional on heaven, Father in heaven.
Yes.
So I think that because the whole purpose is some punya karma, mostly moral values, mundane moral values. So the target is to take people to heaven. But in heaven, sometimes attacked by Saturn means all these demons attack. Correct? And they're very scared of Saturn. But in Krishna consciousness, we are not scared of demons because, Krishna threw them with, smilingly laughing. They don't know, like a challenge.
Yes.
But here, the demons sometimes win over the Devatas. We see that in the Bhagavatam, Bali Maharaj won over the Devatas because they're representing the demons at that time. And demons sometimes defeat the Devata. They're in trouble so many times, Devatas. So I think Saturn, I'm not want to make a decision now because not read that, but looks to be Saturn more to be like the demons which attack the Devatas, right? The evil forces, evil influences which can take, and they talk about if somebody is behaving the wrong way, they don't give responsibility for the wrong behavior to the person. They say, no, Saturn has turned him. And when the World War was going on, some of the missionaries in America were trying to remove the, like a ghost enters to do something. There
Yes.
was across the continent, they were trying to remove the Saturn out of Hitler. The thinking as Saturn entered Hitler. No, he's responsible for his activities. I can become a demon by my own wrong choice of activities, isn't it? I cannot just blame that some ghost has entered me and is doing cross
Yes.
central activity. That way, many times, it's not the ghost cannot enter, but by taking that kind of line and pushing on that line, you take away the responsibility of the people for the sinful activities. Correct? You
Yes.
say now, why did you do murder? Saturn entered me. Then you're responsible.
They say Saturn never sleeps.
Uh,
One more thing they add, Saturn never sleeps.
okay.
Give
Okay.
an inch to a Saturn, he'll go miles. Even a little encouragement you give him, he'll go miles. They say.
Okay.
Like,
Okay, John, let us continue with Saturn study. We leave it.
okay.
So knowledge is always highly esteemed, isn't it? But that's why the knowledge is respected, worship. And they say knowledge is power. I go to education institute. Big slogans are written now, knowledge. But the fact is, not a gram of knowledge is taught anywhere. Because knowledge begins with knowledge of the soul, which is not recognized. Take for instance, when he thinks himself God unceremoniously, he falls into the last layer of mises. Okay? When he thinks he has become God, he falls into the last layer of mises. Probably the last foolishness exam. If so, the nuisance of Saturn is greater than God. They say, I am God, but today I am covered by ignorance. So who covered Maya? Then Maya is greater than God? That kind of question comes. I think Prabhupada is in America at that time because he's preaching among Christians, correct? Therefore, the word Saturn has
Yeah.
come, correct?
Yeah.
And Nescience or Saturn. Because
Yes.
they understand this word Saturn. So he may not, Prabhupada says somebody may be self-realized, but he may not be able to discriminate between soul and the super soul. That's what is happening most of the spiritualists. They make a mess at this point. The soul has become God. Soul never becomes God. He remains, the individuality always remains, but has been pointed out. Okay? And Prabhupada says, anyway, they should take association of us Acharya. Acharya is given all the respect of God, but never claims he is God. Because why is given the respect? Because he's carrying God in his heart. Knowledge, a realized form. He's not carrying some theoretical knowledge of God, like we are carrying some theoretical knowledge. He's carrying realized knowledge. Practically, he's carrying God in his heart with love. So he's given greatest respect. Like an ambassador is given respect. Okay, we continue to the next verse, 17.
Yes. Yes, Prabhu.
Tarun said he will help me explain now. Once one intelligent mind, faith, and refuge are all fixed to the Supreme, then one becomes fully cleansed of misgiving through complete knowledge and thus proceeds straight on the path of liberation. Actually, I have a presentation. I can go to the presentation, the main points will be there. But we are reading, so it goes a bit slow. We are just 10 verses. We have not done 10 verses today. We have just done 8 verses now. Yeah. Tarun,
Yeah,
what do you like to do? You like to read this and explain?
Yeah, Prabhuji, if you want to shift to PPT, and I can take through the purport little bit.
No problem. You take. Now we
Okay.
are going one way. Let us go. Yeah.
Fine. So here the Supreme
I think
Transcendental...
in the what we are doing in the Gita thing like this, I think 10 verses is our landmark. We can't go faster than 10 verses, correct?
Right.
Even though we have stretched more than 1 hour, still we are not able to.
Yeah. So here in this verse, the Supreme Transcendental Truth is Lord Krishna, and the whole Bhagavad Gita centers around the declaration that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Now, this is also the version in all Vedic literature. Para Tattva means the supreme reality, which are understood by the knowers of the Supreme. So here Prabhupada ji explains the 3 realizations of the Supreme: the Brahman, the Paramatma, and the Bhagavan. The Bhagavan, or the Supreme Personality of Godhead, of course, is the last word in the Absolute. There is nothing more than that. Impersonal Brahman is also supported by Krishna. Therefore, in all ways, whether we go this way or this way, personal or impersonal, all leads to Krishna is the supreme reality. The one whose mind, intelligence, faith, and refuge are always in Krishna, or one who is fully in Krishna consciousness, is therefore undoubtedly washed clean of all misgivings and therefore is in perfect knowledge. A Krishna conscious person can therefore thoroughly understand that there is duality. And here, duality is explained as simultaneous identity and individuality. In Krishna, and equipped with this transcendental knowledge, one can make steady progress on the path of liberation.
Okay, so Prabhupada has, you like to add something? Explain this verse. See, the point is identity and individuality has come again, correct? You see, the Prabhupada has been hitting this point last 2-3 verses, correct? Identity and individuality, there are two things which you have. You have an identity. I'm an American, correct? I'm an Indian. I'm an Australian. You have an individuality. I'm an individual. Even though I was a child, when I was a child, I had identity. I'm a spoiled child in some school in Delhi. And then I was in college in Kanpur. I had another identity. My changing, but I know I'm the same individual. I was still there at that place. Okay, you got this point? Identity, individuality.
Yeah.
They're two separate things.
Two separate? How is it, Prabhu? Identity means you are a person on your own.
Identity, you were a young girl, got married sometime, then you were a mother, you had children, 2 sons. Now you're retired. Your identity is changing, no? Now you're a Bangalorean. Previously you were a Mangalorean. Your identity is changing, true? But you still remember I was in Bangalore so many years ago. You're the same individual.
Yes, okay.
Okay?
Difference.
Yeah, you're same individual. You're the same individual. That's a way of saying it, okay? Because identity keeps changing. But also at the same time, you have an eternal identity. You are a servant of Krishna. It does not change. You have an eternal identity. But that has to be awakened. But all the time, I remain the same individual. I am an individual. I am an individual. I was there experiencing the whole thing, even though my identity kept changing. Okay, Bhagavad Gita, this is such a nice line of Prabhupada. The Bhagavad Gita goes around the declaration that Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. You know, this line can come from a devotee, that's all. He's waiting to glorify the Lord. Just like Hanuman, no, every moment he gets a chant, Jai Shri Ram, Jai Shri Ram. You know, that's what he pictures it. He just enjoys that. He loves to say that, correct? So similarly, whenever he gets a time, Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead.
In every way,
huh?
in every purport Prabhupada has mentioned.
Yeah, somebody told what kind of scholar he read from. He puts Krishna even though the shloka is not talking about Krishna. That's what he'll do. He's a devotee. What else we expect him to do? He says, glorify the Lord with heart and soul.
Yeah.
Because he loves Krishna. Just like when you love, suppose you love your child, you feel like talking about the child if somebody wants to listen, correct? Whole day. So when you love Krishna, you feel like that's one of the symptoms of an advanced devotee. It takes great pleasure in glorifying the Lord. In Bhagavatam, whenever the devotees are approached, say, can you tell me something about Krishna? They say, Variya Neshate Krishna. Oh, what a question this is. They become very happy and they can speak for 7 days without eating or taking a drink. They enjoy the subject matter. Tushyanti cha ramanta. They get some great pleasure. Okay, so there is nothing more than that. Matta Paratarana Anyat. There is nothing higher than Krishna. Some people say higher than Krishna, behind him is some energy, light, power, Brahman. But Krishna says in Gita, there is nothing higher than me. So Prabhupada is emphasizing that point. Everything is within Krishna, including Brahman. Brahman is not higher than Krishna. Brahmanohi pratishtaham. Prabhupada is quoting this line. The Brahman is established by Krishna, not reverse. Most of the spiritualists and spiritual organizations that speak reverse. They say Brahman establishes Krishna. But here in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, Brahmanohi pratishtaham. I establish Brahman. So that is there. Krishna is the supreme reality. And when you fix your mind, you see how Prabhupada is actually dragging us. Can't you feel this? What is he doing?
Yeah.
He's dragging us to become a devotee. Dragging us. We are not interested. We want to just enjoy ourselves. He's dragging us to become it. So therefore, if you put your time and he's putting all his energy to bringing us at Krishna's lotus feet. And that devotees take great pleasure in that, bringing people to Krishna's shelter. So there is no duality in Krishna, and one can make steady progress on the path of Krishna liberation. Okay. 18. This is a very, 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 very famous verse. Vidya Vinaya Sampanne. Yeah, repeat after. Vidya Vinaya Sampanne.
Vidya Vinay Sampanne
Brahmane Gavihastine.
Brahmane
Brahmane
Gavihastini
Shuni
Gavihastini.
Chaiva Sapakhe Cha.
Shuni Cheva Shapake Cha
Pandita Samadarshinaha.
Pandita.
Pandita Samidarshina.
The humble sage of virtue, true knowledge, sees with equal vision a learned and a gentle Brahmana, a cow, an elephant, a dog, and a dog eater.
Yeah. A Krishna conscious person does not make any distinction between species or caste. The Brahmana and the
Arun,
outcast.
you can do in
Ji,
your style. As you read every line, keep explaining that line. Yeah.
sure. A Krishna conscious person does not make any distinction between species or caste.
Why
The
did you say that?
Yeah. So he sees in every person, he sees inside Krishna. Krishna is residing in everyone's heart. The living consciousness, the consciousness is the Krishna.
Yeah, basically
And
what
that
happens,
is,
because see, Krishna is not discriminating. He sits in Tarun's heart, he sits in Yuresh's heart, he sits in Murti Mataji's heart, Shobha Mataji's heart. He's sitting everywhere. He's not discriminating. When he does not discriminate, he also does not discriminate. Got it?
yeah.
Krishna loves everybody equally. Now, there is very big point at this point. Just because you see there are different people here, there is a Brahmana who has been given great qualification. Vidya Vinaya Sampanna, a Brahmana having the qualification of, he's having Vidya knowledge, he's having humility, Vinaya is very polite, and he's filled of this Vidya Vinaya. Such an accomplished Brahmana, this is a genuine Brahmana, and there is a cow. Hastini means there is, I think, yeah, now you will see it. Brahmana, there is a cow, and there is an elephant. A Shuni, a dog, Shapaki, a dog eater. Now, you see, we have gone across species and across social orders. Therefore, it does not make any distinction between species or caste, correct? So, now my question is this. That's the main essence of this verse. But not at your place a dog comes or a Brahmana comes. A qualified Brahmana should be paid obeisance, correct? Is full of all spiritual knowledge and is very humble. We should give him respect. And a dog comes, you'll give respect to him also. Will you allow dog inside the temple? And you will, because Krishna says that in Bhagavad Gita, you should see equally. Who is going to solve this question now? Krishna is saying we should see equally. Yeah. Krishna is saying equally, but how a dog comes to you, you will pay respects to him and bring him inside the temple, you will wash his feet, do arti for him, what you do for a qualified Brahmana. Namo Brahmana Devaya, Go Brahmana Taya, why Krishna says, Namo Brahmana Devaya and Go. All animals will equally give respect. Why we will answer this question now. It's a contradiction or not?
Yes, it is, Prabhu.
So give the answer. See, equal in love, just like say you're a doctor. Okay? I think Shiva Mataji can understand this. Now you are equal in love to the patient, but still you give it different medicines. Correct? So they are all there. What is best to be done to the dog in that condition you will do. Just like somebody comes, you put him under ICU. Somebody comes, you put him in outpatient ward. You cannot say why you give different treatment. Arey Baba, you are in different condition. No, you gave somebody one medicine and somebody you gave another medicine. Correct? It's possible or not? Anna? Because a doctor, you should treat equally. No? Doctor will say, I'm equal in love. Equal in love to all the patients. But based on that condition, I have to give different treatment. Now, does it solve this problem or not? Based on that condition, you have to give different treatment. You cannot say, Doc, please come, I'll do arti for you. No. For his condition, if you can give him some prasadam to eat, that's it. You cannot do anything more than that. Correct? You cannot make him chant Hare Krishna. You cannot say, please, your dog, I have to see equally. Krishna said, see equally. So you please sit and give me Bhagavata class. He will come and urinate on your head and go away. What is it? You do foolish. Yes, your age, does it solve or still there is a doubt on this? Tarun?
Yeah, Prabhuji. Only thing is that our
Equal in
conditioning,
love.
yeah, our conditioning in the material world, and whatever wrong things we have learned, it is a journey. It's a path, and I think that's what the whole journey is all about: to see the equanimity, all the souls,
They
and
see equally as the Lord is seen. So why did God put him in the dog's body? Is it that he was partial to it? No, that is the best thing for him.
yeah,
That is the best. Love is equal. See,
right,
Krishna loves everybody equally, correct? But
yes,
somebody wants to go to the ocean and swim like a fish.
right,
Somebody wants to become a knowledgeable person. He becomes a Brahmin, qualified, correct?
right,
What they wish, Krishna sanctioned everybody, correct? Krishna is
mm,
always equal. Just like when Danavas and Devatas fight, Krishna comes to support the Devatas many times, correct?
mm,
And when he supports the Devatas, Danavas say, my God, now the war is over. Why he has come? And actually, he should not come because both are his children. They are fighting in their business. Why he should come? He comes because Devatas pray him to come. So why don't Danavas pray? If they pray, they are not Danavas. They are Devatas. They
right,
never pray. They are envious of God. They will pray to Devatas and pray to Danavas and sometimes pray to some powerful Devata like Brahma and Shiva. They never pray to Vishnu. So they hate. Correct? So therefore, it is not their fault. Okay, this makes sense now.
yes,
Yes,
That
Prabhupada.
he's equal. So different situations we're having of dog and all, it is because of our own activities. But Krishna is equal in love. So a humble sage also, this is the definition of a pandita. It is I think, third or fourth definition. Gita, 4 or 5 places the word pandit comes, and the definition of pandit is given. So here is a very nice definition, very advanced definition. A Pandita sees everybody equal. Another way he sees equally is that potentially everybody is a pure Krishna conscious. Correct? Potentially. Potentially. Like a doctor sees everybody, is giving them different treatment based on their condition. But potentially, all of them can become healthy if they get cured. Correct? They'll all will be healthy. And then at that time, as you go back to the spiritual world, you're all one. Correct? You're at the same situation. Not that you are higher and lower. All are in the same situation. The material world, it is true, we are in different conditions of sickness. And same doctor, because he loves us equally, they give us different medicines. And why the devotee seems equally like that? Because Krishna sees it. For mother, the child who is uneducated sitting at home, or the child who is learning $1,000,000, a mother will love both the child equally. Correct?
yeah,
Just because he's earning more and you're not, hey, get lost, you're not earning. No, she loves both. Both are dear to her. So Krishna, everybody is dear, and he does best what he can do for us. Yuresh, you are there, or Yuresh looks like
Yes,
something.
Prabhuji, I'm here.
Any questions on this point? It's a bit difficult point, but I hope we have solved it.
No, Prabhuji, I think we should look at in a spiritually that everybody has a soul, not the body. Then
Yeah,
I think,
yeah. So when the dog comes, you do Aarti and wash his feet.
yeah,
Dog will pass doing inside your house. Right?
yeah, but not on the material basis, Prabhuji, but as a soul. Yes.
Krishna is saying you should treat equally. No, you should not treat equally. You should wash his feet. Same treatment you give to Brahmana, you bring him inside the house, wash his feet. You sit on ass and give a pravachan. I hope this is little realization on this verse because it's a famous verse we keep quoting. Okay? This is the similarity of the soul. Prabhupada says again, this is because he knows the Mayavadis are also reading his books, and we are also by nature Mayavadis, impersonalists by nature. Prabhupada is saying, don't think, because see, moment you understand the soul and super soul is different, that is actually Gita is over at that moment. But all these arguments somehow make us understand that I am not equal to God. And this is dasa. The moment you're convinced of this, you will be in bliss of Krishna consciousness. We are not. We still have a tendency to occupy the post of the Lord. Therefore, Prabhupada again reminds us, similarity is there. Why similarity is there? Conscious, eternal, blissful. Three natures are similar. Because Sachidananda. But God is supreme. The difference in individual soul is conscious. You're only, and it's a reality. You only know what is there within his body. Now you cannot know Yuresh, but Tarun is thinking. Maybe Tarun is thinking, I'll go and have some dinner now and getting late. We do not know what he's thinking. We cannot go beyond our body. But Krishna is so powerful. He is conscious of every body at the same time. Okay, and is present in all bodies without distinction because he loves everyone. Okay, so in that way, he is equal. He is present with every living entity and is equal in them in his love. But somebody makes a billionaire, somebody makes a pauper. That is because that was best for them. Okay, this is a very big question. Yeah, Krishna is partial. Even Bhagavatam, this question is asked in 7th canto in the beginning by Yudhishthira Maharaj, and whole canto goes trying to answer this question. It looks partial, correct? We said in the previous verse also Prabhupada said somewhere, it looks that he ended the purport like that. He hates somebody and he
Like somebody.
The Lord neither hates or likes anyone, although he appears to. He appears to.
Yes.
You see a neighbor becoming a trillionaire. Oh my God, he is such a Lord is so partial to him. Why, I don't know. Okay. Yeah, you wanted to finish on this, Tarun? I interrupted you in between.
No, it's fine, Prabhuji. Explained it. I think you covered it, most of it. Yeah. We move to the next verse, Prabhuji.
Yeah.
So text 19, those whose minds are established in sameness and equanimity have already conquered the conditions of birth and death. They are flawless like Brahman, and thus they are already situated in Brahman. So equanimity of mind, as is mentioned, is a sign of self-realization. And the self-realization is the constitutional position, the soul, spirit soul, the eternal servant to the Lord. Those who have actually attained to such a stage should be considered to have conquered material conditions, specifically birth and death. As long as one identifies with this body, he is considered a conditioned soul. But as soon as he is elevated to the stage of equanimity through realization of self, he is liberated from the conditioned life. In other words, he is no longer subject to take birth in the material world, but can enter into the spiritual sky after his death. The Lord is flawless because he is without attraction or hatred. Similarly, when a living entity is without attraction or hatred, he also becomes flawless and eligible to enter into the spiritual sky. Such persons are to be considered already liberated, and their symptoms are described in subsequent verse.
Yeah, few more verses. Actually, there are, I think, 7 more shlokas.
Yeah.
2, 3, 4.
Actually, 9.
All 9 are there. What do you do now?
I think we can continue in the next one, probably. It's already 11.
No problem for you, Yuresh. Yuresh, what's the time for you now?
It's 3:30, Prabhuji, in the morning.
Morning?
Yeah.
Brahma Muhurat.
We made a night out for Yuresh.
Yeah, in 1 hour there will be Mangala Aarti.
You do Mangala Aarti at home?
Sorry, Prabhuji?
You do Mangala Aarti at home?
No, I watch the temple live Mangala Aarti and I just follow that.
Today we have made you do night out, so you will deep asleep.
It's valuable information, so that's
Anyway, see what happens is that these are all wonderful purports. These purports are my ecstasy. So I always, when I read Prabhupada books, 3 labels I read. Number 1 label, see, these are the concepts we are reading, correct? You see concepts we understand. Number 2, the feelings. When we read the submission with devotees together, it's a feeling. You can also, when you read with peace, you can see the 3rd is the belief, the orders of Krishna. Prabhupada is giving orders, do this, don't do this. So at least at concept level, together we are able to understand. Feeling level also, because they're all Vaishnavas, and without any offense, with proper respect for each other, we are discussing. So feelings of Prabhupada also start touching us. All of us get touched. Okay? Sometimes we see a particular line, it shakes us up so wonderfully. Particularly the Krishna book reading that we do, some things are mind-boggling there.
yeah.
So very sweet. And then in the willing level, the next level is we see this purpose for instructions. Purpose is usually very serious to make a known have to be very serious. Certain things you might want to say. Just like I'm talking to Yuresh now. So thinking level, okay, I know a person. Feeling, I feel is that. Feeling, this is what you want. So let us, as we improve our quality of some, all of us say come prepared and we read and come, we can taste more and more. So the concept level is over. We have read, correct? Prabhu, look at this line. It's very beautiful line, correct? So that really, even we can taste more and more. Bodhyastas Parasparam, advanced devotees, they relish discussing about Krishna. Okay, so this is just we have used the technology as a forum for relishing Krishna consciousness. And it looks as good as we were sitting together, correct? Not fully.
Yeah.
Definitely, it is much more relishable when we are there together. But still, it's as best we can do, even though we are separated by space. Bangalore, 2 of you are in Bangalore, and 2 of us are in Bangalore, and Australia, just imagine, different continent. Physically, if you want to go, it's such a distance away, but we are as if sitting in the same,
Yeah.
So 20th, last 19th verse, let us, you read the 19th now, just now?
Yeah, Prabhuji.
Just we see in the purport anything was there and we close. The flawless mind says, okay, we start with the 19 next time. 10 verses to 29. Okay. I wish everybody read and come. Okay. Take a particular portion so that we can go very fast and we can go. I think I had shared somewhere the breakup of this chapter. I think one picture I put. But the different, now the new line of arguments will start after this. Yeah, I think 5.1 to 5.6. Yeah. We are in 5. I think 19. So 17 to 26, Tarun, we can finish that whole thing.
Yes.
Finish it by focusing on the super. Okay?
Ji, Prabhuji.
Okay. And then Yuresh, you can take the next one, 27, 28.
Yeah.
And 29. Last 3. Okay?
Okay, Prabhuji.
27, 28, 29. 27, 28, liberation through Ashtanga Yoga, preview. Because next chapter is an Ashtanga Yoga, so it will start from that. And 29, peace on the platform, liberation. A very, very, very famous verse. Murti Mataji. Hare Krishna. 29th verse. You will explain 29th verse? Bhoktara Yekvrtapasama Sarvalokamahesharam. Famous verse.
I can't hear you.
No, Bhoktaram Yekvrtapasama Sarvalokamahesharam. You know that verse, no? Famous verse?
Yes, yes.
Yeah, you explain that verse. Okay? Next time. 29, 5. So Yuresh is 27, 28, and Tarun, you finished that 26 verse next time. Okay?
Yeah, Prabhuji.
Okay, hope everybody is ready, then we can go much faster. Please,
Sure.
I request everybody read and come so we can go dredge very fast through the chapter.
And mine is, which the verse is mine?
5 point, last verse of the chapter.
Last verse, I have to explain.
Okay. Hare Krishna, everybody. Thank you.
Hare
very much.
Krishna,